Okay, so the first argument I'm making for the historical reliability of hadith is based on the criterion of embarrassment. This is often used in Western historiography. Basically, if people are reporting things that are against their interest to report, then it's more likely to be true. So the first thing I would mention in this regard is all of the Sunni Hadith, authentic Sunni Hadith, and all of the details in the Sirah that praise Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu anhu. Here's the simple fact. This was not in the interest of Umayyads or Abbasids or Sunni scholars who were dealing with Shias to make up. It is highly unlikely that and if they could fabricate or remove things, these are the first things they would have removed. Instead of Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu anhu being the one at Khaybar, you could have Muawiyah Raziyallahu anhu or Ibn Abbas or Abbas Raziyallahu anhu being the one at Khaybar. But the fact that there are no contradicting hadiths like this that make those people, those Sahaba Raziyallahu anhu as great or anywhere close to great at Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu anhu and his family, and the fact that there are so many Sunni hadiths which praise Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu anhu and his family shows that Sunni historical records are reliable because they are reporting things that are against their interest to report, and they cannot fabricate things that would be in their interest to report. There are numerous other examples of things like this which would meet the criterion of embarrassment and make Sunni hadith to be reliable. This is just one example. This is my first argument. You can respond.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the common links for all these traditions, they are by pro-Alids. So, in fact, a lot of these traditions that you're talking about, if you actually look at the common links, they are not from the pro-Umayyad or Abbasid circles. They are from circles which actually held some kind of either love for Ali or some kind of support for Ali. Many of these transmitters were either pro-Alids or they were people who supported the four caliph thesis. So they were Baghdadi or Kufan narrators who, in their interaction with the Mu'tazili and Zaydi scholars, developed pro-Ali views. And that's why they transmitted these reports. That's why when you open the earliest Sunni corpus, you will actually find a lot of anti-Alid sentiment, or you would not find as many reports as uh, in the later tradition. So, for example, Sean Anthony um, has studied the corpus of Orwa, and the corpus of Orwa, which is one of the earliest Sunni corpus, has a clear anti-Ali tendency, right? So this argument that you're presenting basically presupposes that these ahadith, first of all, it presupposes that Sunni hadith transmission is a monolithic reality. That's just simply not true. Sunni hadith transmission is not a monolithic reality. Sunni hadith transmission is shaped by multiple distinct narrators of different predilections, different biases, and different interests. And many of those narrators were actually pro-Alid, and then they actually transmitted stuff that was pro-Alid. Jabir bin Yazid al-Ju'fi, Abbad ibn Yaqub, Humayd, Asim bin Humayd al-Hannat, as-Sabi'i. There are many people who transmitted content that was actually in support of Ali. So you're basically just presupposing that Sunni Hadith transmission is a monolithic reality, which it is not.
Okay, I'll can I respond now?
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, firstly, you brought up common links and general Orientalist claims. Here is the first fact that you or your listeners need to realize: the opinion and positions of Orientalists are worth nothing. Here is a simple fact that people need to realize. Biblical scholars like Bart Ehrman, John Dominic Crossan, and many others constantly will debate their arguments against Christians. Whether you agree with them or not, that gives them credibility. Orientalists never do this. Why should anyone take them seriously? So, firstly, the point about common links and journal claim of authority regarding Orientalists, it's garbage. Secondly, the point about the Sunni narrators, basically some of them being pro elite, some of them being anti elite. Here is the simple problem with there are multiple problems with this claim. Firstly, all of those hadiths are not coming from pro-Ali sources. Some are coming from those with Shia tendencies, and some from those who are not, who are coming, who don't have Shia tendencies. Firstly, secondly, uh, let's suppose some Shia narrators were making up these hadiths. Why did everyone else accept them? Are you seriously arguing that basically what you're saying is the equivalent of, let's take an American example. Some MAGA supporters make up some reports praising Trump, and every liberal magically accepts them. This is the equivalent of what you are arguing. Why would everyone accept them? Why would everyone, and most of them, by the way, had to be under the influence of Umayyads or Abbasids. They are the only group powerful enough to make up a narrative and have people accept it. Why would all of these people, a lot of them who have anti-elite tendencies, just accept these narrations praising him? Not only accept them, attach authentic isnads to them. Why would they do that? Either you can make this argument works one of two ways. The hadiths that are praising Hazrat Ali Radiallahu Anhu that are not narrated by Shia narrators, those show that hadiths couldn't be made up. The hadiths that are narrated by Shia narrators but are accepted as authentic by Sunni scholars, those show that the isnad system is reliable, because the authenticity of those isnads is accepted by even those scholars who did not have pro-Ali tendencies. What you, and actually I've seen some other Orientalist scholars try to argue that in many cases they try to argue political machinations were behind hadiths, but when it comes to the hadith praising Hazrat Ali Radiallahu Anhu, political machinations are not behind this. Why is that? It doesn't work that way. Lastly, in terms of actually lastly in terms of, you need to address this point. You said that some of those people, early Muslims, they had pro Ali, or they had the reports regarding the four caliphs or whatever. Understand this point. Why would they make Hazrat Ali Radiallahu Anhu such a prominent person in the Seerah? You could have him be just a nominal companion, or someone who is there for the battles but does not have a prominent role in them. Also, if there are reports being made up for everyone in their interest, like you are trying to claim, where are the massive reports of Muawiyah Radiallahu Anhu being an early companion? Where are the reports of Abbas Radiallahu Anhu being a Muslim from the very start? These don't exist. Because on your view and on the Orientalist thesis, this is what we should expect, that people are trying to make up their preferred companions to be higher and higher authorities. This never happens. The fact that this never happened or could not happen is a massive proof for the historical reliability of Sunni Hadith. You can respond.
Yeah, I mean, you just ignored the claim about the common link and try to contextualize it in a context of argument from authority. That's not the claim I made. First of all, you need to improve your comprehension, right? The claim I made was that if you trace these pro-Ali traditions, and if you collate all the asanid converge on pro-Ali transmitters, right? You can try it yourself. This is not something that's contestable. We can do it right now if you want to do it, right? Take 10 pro-Ali traditions, collate their asanid, and see on what person, on what node the asanid converge, and you'll see that that person is a pro-Ali transmitter. Secondly, your point is just factually false. Where is Ali's presentation in the early Sirah literature? The early Sirah literature actually has an anti-Ali tendency. I just talked about it and you chose to ignore that point. Then you are trying to contextualize Abbasids as anti-Alids. That's also not true. Majority of Abbasids, the Abbasid tendency was not anti-Alid. It was actually pro-Alid, right? And then you claimed, well, why would people present something that is against their view? Well, which hadith was against their view that they presented? Could you please tell us those ahadith? Because majority of the people who actually transmitted pro-Alid reports, even compiled pro-Alid reports, they were trying to establish the four caliph thesis because they believed in the legitimacy of Ali, and they were trying to argue against the Osmanis, right? That's why, because the Osmanis only affirmed three rightly guided caliphs. They did not affirm the fourth caliph Ali. That's why majority of the later traditionists, the traditionists in the Abbasid period, they were affected by the Zaidi, Mu'tazili, pro-Ali milieu, and they incorporated the four caliph thesis and changed the three caliph thesis into four caliph thesis. That's why majority of pro-Ali ahadith, even when they are present in the Sunni corpus, are presented by people of this predilection and bias. So this criterion of embarrassment that you are trying to present, it is actually not embarrassing for them. It is actually in line with their view. For it to be actually the criterion of embarrassment, you would have to show cases where somebody is actually anti-Aliyid, and then they transmit a report that is in favor of Ali, right? Nonetheless, that can still happen because the historical scholars are not arguing that everyone at all times is lying. That's not true. That's not what they are claiming anyway, right? Especially for the later transmitters, such as transmitters in the Abbasid times, because by that time, majority of the hadith transmission is actually reliable, and it actually reflects what the teachers, what the students took from their teachers. So you are just misconstructing the claim. The major claim is about the common links between 100 Hijri and 150 Hijri. That's when you have majority of the common links. And if you trace out the common links at this time, what you will see is that the majority of the Ali traditions actually do not go back to Medina. The majority of Ali traditions do not go back to the Proto-Sunni Hadith compilation period, to the circles of Az-Zuhri or Musa bin Uqba or Urwa ibn Zubair or Hisham ibn Urwa. That's not what the traditions go to. The traditions at this time between 100 and 150 Hijri majorly go back to Kufan companions who were pro-Ali, right? So now if you actually have a particular example rather than hasty generalizations, yeah, we would be very happy to actually see an example of a pro-Ali tradition in a Medinan context. Go ahead. Yeah, if you're speaking, you're not audible to me. Okay, I think you disconnected. Let me try to bring you back up. Yeah, I'm inviting you. Okay, let me see. Uh, uh, Yes, are you back?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'll respond. Firstly, the point about common links and you mentioning them as maybe assuming that the claim you're making, I don't know what your exact assumption was, but I fairly understand it. Here's the point. There's a problem you are not dealing with. You are assuming that the common link theory is the correct or accurate paradigm with which to analyze Sunni Hadith. That's just based on Orientalist claims. I'm not going to take that seriously. For one of the reasons I gave is that Orientalists are not willing and able to defend and debate their arguments against Muslims, which in a similar scenario, Christian biblical scholars of Christianity such as Bart Ehrman, John Dominic Rawson, and very many others are doing. So I'm not going to take Orientalists seriously. Secondly, the point about you said that all of these hadiths or stories are narrated by pro-Ali people, and therefore they don't meet the criterion of dissimilarity. Okay, unlike you, I did not dodge the points you made. You dodged my point about the authenticity of Isnad. I said that either these narrations are proofs that the narrators, if the narrators are pro Ali, then it's proof of the fact that the Isnad system is not random. Because why would all the anti-Ali factions attach authentic Isnads to all these hadiths? You'd never address this point. You accuse me of dodging, but you are the one who dodged this simple fact. Firstly. Secondly, you said the Abbasids were basically pro-Ali. Actually, Abbasids would have massive reasons to forge hadith against Hazrat Ali Radiallahu anhu. Here's a simple reason for this. There were rebellions by the Abbasids, actually in the time of Abbasids, by pro-Ali Shia forces. I can find references for this very easily, and anyone can look this up. So let's suppose Russia is fighting America. Why would America forge narrations or allow narrations to be forged in favor of Russia? This is the claim you are making. This is beyond stupid and, to be honest, desperate.
Watch your language.
Last
Watch your
one.
language. You can't say stupid. Just be academic and speak normally. Don't need to shout.
This is a beyond desperate claim, and honestly, I don't think calling someone stupid is like
Okay, sure.
anti-academic or
Yeah,
something.
it
I
is
don't know
pretty.
why you're getting.
Bro, remain in akhlaq.
Look,
I'm
I
talking to
don't
you
know.
nicely. Return the same respect.
This is a pretty weak and, to be
Okay.
honest, I won't say idiot, but this is a pretty pathetic claim. The reason being very simple. If the example I just mentioned, if America and Russia were fighting a war or someone was rebelling against America, why would American authorities make narrations in favor of the rebellions or the people they are fighting? This is why the claim you are making here is nonsensical. Lastly, you said that all or most of those narrations that are in favor of Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu anhu are made up by or narrated by pro-Ali people. Prove this claim. Here's my point. I'm saying some of them are by pro-Ali sources and some of them are by anti-Ali sources. What you are saying is all of them are by pro-Ali sources. Prove your claim in this regard. And secondly, please address the point I am making. You are saying that all of those hadiths were made up for his, what you are asking. All of those reports pro Ali were made up by followers of Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu anhu, and all the anti-Ali people or people who are not pro Ali magically accepted them without no reason and attached authentic isnads to them. This would never happen if the people were dishonest, if the isnad system was arbitrary and made up. The fact that these narrations, which are anti-establishment of the time or anti the political motivations of the time, have authentic isnads, shows the isnad system to be reliable. There is simply no way around this. Either this is an argument for matan or it's an argument for isnad. You are not going to dodge this or hand wave this away. If I missed something, please point it out. But I think I've responded to your points. But I could be missing a thing or two.
Yeah,
You can respond.
amazing. I think trying to engage with all your points is just gonna entail you speaking for 5 minutes once again and not actually engaging. So let me just engage with one point so you can actually answer. So you said you don't take the common link theory as acceptable. What does that even mean? Okay, the Orientalists do not prove their claims in front of other people. That's why you don't take the common link theory. I'm not talking about any theory. I'm making a factual statement, very simple factual statement. All the ahadith that you're talking about, if you actually take these ahadith and collate all the asanid, you will see that all the asanid primarily converge on someone who is a pro-Ali companion. right? That is a factual claim. So now, can you bring any hadith, or at least a few ahadith that you think are pro-Alid, for which you have collated the asanid, and when you collated the asanid showed that the common link, or the madar, as it is said um, uh, in traditional rijal criticism, the tafarrud or the madar is on someone who is anti-Alid, right? Can you show a hadith like that? Please go ahead.
Okay. If you want, we can do a 2 minute time where you speak for 1 minute or 2 minutes, I speak for 1 minute or 2 minutes. So I don't want you to have an excuse to dodge the point I'm making about reliability of Isnad and my other points. I think this is just a desperate excuse from you. Firstly. Secondly, as to the point about all these hadiths being made up by Ali Razila, you are saying I need to prove that some of them aren't. I'm just claiming some of them aren't. You are claiming all of them are made by pro-Ali sources. Go
Yes,
ahead,
bring the
prove your claim.
hadith, bring the
Look,
hadith, bring
brethren
the
of
hadith that
purity,
you are
brethren of
claiming.
purity.
Yeah,
Look,
refuting. Bring the hadith,
I'll let you
that you
finish
are
your point.
claiming. Yeah,
Brethren
you're
of
not
purity,
gonna.
I'll
Yeah,
let
you
you finish your
can't.
point.
Yeah, you can't go on and make the same claim.
I'm
Bring the
not going on
hadith.
forever. I'm
Please
just
bring the
addressing your
hadith.
point.
Refuting. Please
You
bring
should
the
prove.
hadith.
You are making the
No,
claim that
you are the
all of
one
the
who's
hadiths
making
are
the
pro-Ali.
claim.
Go ahead, prove your claim.
You
You
are
are
the
saying
one.
each of those numerous hadiths are only coming from pro-Ali people.
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead,
You are
prove
the
your
one.
claim.
Yeah, you
No,
are the
you are
one.
making the claim
Yeah.
here. You are
Who
making the
is
bigger
making the
claim here.
1 minute?
And you are
Yeah.
interrupting me. Look.
Yeah, you are the
Brethren
one
of
who is
purity,
making
why
the
are you getting
positive claim.
nervous?
You are the one who
You
is
are
making
making
the
the positive
positive
claim.
claim. Why are you
Who said
shouting?
all those hadiths are from pro-Ali sources? Why are you interrupting me? Look, I let you speak without interruption. If you want, I can just speak. We can speak for 1 minute in turn. I don't want you to have an excuse. Just address this point. You are saying I need to prove some of those hadiths are not from pro-Ali sources. You are claiming all of them are from pro-Ali sources. Prove your claim. We are both making claims here. It's not just one of us making claims, both of us making claims. Prove your
Bring
claims
a
and
pro.
please don't dodge the
Yes,
Isnad point.
yes. So bring the pro Ali hadith that you're talking about, and let's see it.
You are saying all of those hadiths are are from pro-Ali sources. Go ahead, prove your claim. You said each of
So
those
what do
sources
you
hadith is from pro-Ali
1 minute,
sources.
1 minute. So what do
Go
you
ahead,
want me
prove
to?
your claim.
Yeah. So what do you want me to do? To bring out every single pro Ali hadith? What is the rational expectation here? For me to bring out all the anti-Ali pro Ali hadith and collate all the asanid right now and show you that all of them have a madar, tafarrud, or a common link at a pro Ali companion? Is that what you want me to show?
I
You
want
are
you
the
to show
one.
your
Yeah,
claims.
let
If
me
you,
finish.
brethren of
Let me
purity,
finish.
I want
You
you
are
to
the
justify
one.
your claim. Don't make this claim.
Yeah.
Look,
You came on
I'm
the
making a much
stage.
simpler claim,
Okay.
brethren of purity. I'm making a very simple claim. At least some of them are from neutral or anti-Ali
So
sources. You are saying all of them.
one of them. Bring one of them,
I
which is
don't
from a
have right
neutral
now. I'm
authority.
not carrying an entire corpus with me right now. Brethren of purity.
So you make
I
a
don't
claim
have
and
the
then
entire
you don't
corpus
bring the
right now.
hadith. So you're not
You are
gonna bring the
making the same
hadith.
claim. You are making the same claim. Go ahead. Bring hadith. You are saying each and every of those hadiths is from pro-Ali sources. Go ahead, prove your claim.
Yeah, and you are saying,
why are you making a claim?
You all you have to do is to show one hadith which is not from a pro-Ali source. That's it, and you would be able to refute my claim. That's it. So why don't you
I don't
just bring
have
the
the corpus
hadith?
with me right
Why
now.
don't
Brethren
so
of
you are
purity.
making a claim? 1 minute. So
You
you
are
are
making the
making
same
you
claim.
listen
You
to
are
me.
also making a
You
claim.
came on stage. 1 minute.
Listen to
You
me,
came on
brethren of
stage. You
purity.
came on the stage,
You
and
are
you
the same
said,
claim.
okay, if you're not gonna
And
listen,
every of
if
those
you're gonna, why are you getting frustrated? Why are you getting
pro-Ali
frustrated?
sources.
Why are you shouting? Why are you shouting
Well,
though?
you are
Calm down.
interrupting me
Calm
because,
down.
to be
Okay, go
honest,
ahead.
I
I'll
let you
not.
speak without interruption. Here's what we can do. You can speak without interruption. I can speak without interruption.
Speak
That
as much
seems
as you
fair, right?
want, then let me speak.
Okay, I'll just make a very simple point. Logically, there are three options with regards to all the hadiths that are in favor of Hazrat Ali Raziyallahu anhu. Either they are from neutral sources, either they are from pro-Ali sources, either they are from anti-Ali sources. I am saying it could be the case, or it probably is the case, that it's from those three cases. What Brethren of Purity is implying is that every single one of them is from pro-Ali sources. Why do I have to prove my claim if he cannot prove his claim? In our space discussion, I don't have entire encyclopedia or books of hadith with me right now to do the analysis right now. He doesn't either. He's saying that I'm making the bigger claim here, but he is making a much bigger claim than me. That is justified. And if he can't, his claim is worthless. You can respond.
Okay. Yes, and I have in abductive justification for the claim I'm making, and I already gave it to you, and you did not engage with the point. My abductive justification is based on the fact that there have been numerous studies on some pro-Ali traditions. For example, there has been a study on the hadith of the cloak. I myself have done the study on the hadith of the bab, which is pro-Ali. إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. There are multiple different ahadiths on the sha'n and nuzul of this. There have been studies on hadith Safina, which were done by Ivan Su. There have been other ahadiths which are about the four companions, four caliph thesis, and in all these cases, the common link, the madar, the tafarrud was a pro-Ali companion. It was not someone who was a very well-known anti-Ali authority, right? And simultaneously, I have objective reason to posit that anti-Ali authorities did not transmit very much in favor of Ali, because the earliest reconstructed Sira corpus that we have from the Medinan circle, the circle of Musa bin Uqba, Hisham ibn Urwa, Urwa ibn Zubayr, Az-Zuhri, Malik ibn Anas, all these different people, the Zubayrids, the earliest corpus that we have from them has an anti-Ali tendency, and this has been noted multiple times by different scholars. And this is something sometimes even accepted by some traditional scholars as well. But in critical scholarship, Sean Anthony has shown this, Gerke and Schuller have showed this, even Patricia Krone has showed this. And actually, there is a good thread that was recently put by Ammar Muslim as well, on showing the Usmani position of Malik ibn Anas, which I have just linked above, which actually shows that the early Medinan community of the Zubayrid forces was actually Osmani. So I have pretty good abductive reason to posit that these pro-Ali narrations that you're talking about originate from a pro-Ali milieu, not from an anti-Ali milieu, not from an Osmani milieu. And you were the one who came on stage and who said, well, there are some narrations that actually fulfill the criterion of embarrassment. And now you're trying to backtrack and put your burden of proof on me. Why don't you? Okay, I'm an agnostic. Okay, let's take the best case. I cannot prove that all of them have pro-Ali origins. I am agnostic about it. I don't know what actually are the origins of these ahadiths. You are making the claim that they fulfill the criterion of embarrassment such that they need to have anti-Ali origins. On what basis did you make this claim when you have not studied even a single hadith? You are being asked to present a single hadith which has an anti-Ali narrator as the common link and which has pro-Ali content. You made a humongous claim on stage, and now you cannot even substantiate it with a single hadith. What are we doing here? Are we having a debate? Are we having a discussion? Or are we just here to listen to your generalized claims? So next thing you're going to do when you unmic yourself, you're going to actually present the hadith. To be honest, even if you present one hadith, that's not going to affect the argument a lot, because we already agree that there were people who actually transmitted stuff, even it went against their view. For example, Malik sometimes transmits stuff that goes against their view. So it's not like, oh, the critical scholars believe that everyone was lying at all times. That's just simply not true. But you have not even presented a single hadith. Your case would be much stronger if you presented like 30, 20, or 30 different traditions which fulfill the criterion of embarrassment, or even 5, but you haven't been able to do so. You haven't been able to even present one tradition. So let's see in this time, are you going to shift the burden, or are you going to actually bring a hadith? Because the audience is listening. And they know if you don't bring a hadith this time, it's going to look pretty bad for you.
Okay, I'll respond now. Let's take the let's say suppose someone agnostic approaches this question. How would they take this as just the question of whether the pro-Ali hadiths are from pro-Ali neutral or anti-Ali sources? They wouldn't assume that all of these are automatic from pro-Ali. They wouldn't assume all of these are automatically from anti-Ali. They wouldn't assume all of these are from neutral sources. They would probably think it's likely that it's coming from all those sources. This is the agnostic position, firstly. So you are actually contradicting the agnostic position in this regard. That's where the burden of proof is on you, firstly. Secondly, the point about me making the claim, I'm not just the one making the claim here. You are making a claim here as well. Thirdly, you started quoting mostly Orientalist sources, like they did a study and they found it and blah, blah, blah. Again, Orientalist opinion is worth nothing. And there's a very simple reason for it. Biblical scholar, again, I've gone into the reason I don't want to go into again. Now, let's suppose for the sake of argument, because I don't want to waste time on this. Let's suppose for the sake of argument, I will accept that every single hadith is from pro-Ali source, that are praising Hazrat Ali radiyallahu anhu. That still does nothing to refute my argument. Therefore, and that's for a very simple reason. Why did all the neutral or anti-Ali sources accept those narrations? Let's suppose someone in America, right now America and Russia have a lot of tensions, makes a pro-Russia narrations. Let's suppose someone with a Russian background makes a pro-Russia narrations in America. Why would every American scholar or historian accept all those narrations? Why would they stamp them as authentic, as reliable, as sahih? They wouldn't, unless all of those narrations are authentic. And from this, we can argue at least the Isnad system, the one used for grading hadith, is reliable. Why? Because they are grading things as authentic that are against their interest. And by the way, you are trying to do a little trick here. You are trying to say that the four caliph rulers, the hadith by them are also like they are pro-Ali. Why would the four caliph people make up hadith praising Hazrat Ali radiyallahu anhu? While there are a lot of hadiths made by Shias that are praising him. They wouldn't. They would want to downplay the role of Hazrat Ali radiyallahu anhu, especially in just a position to Usman radiyallahu anhu, Umar radiyallahu anhu, and Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. You are not addressing this point. Lastly, if all of these narrations are made up, right? Where are all of the similar narration made up to support Muawiyah radiyallahu anhu and Abbas or Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu? Either way, this works as an argument for historical reliability of Sunni Hadith. Now, you can respond to this point, and please don't dodge the point about Isnads. After that, if you want to continue on this, we can continue, and we can go to the next argument. By the way, one last thing. You are whining about me speaking for 5 minutes. You spoke longer than I ever have in your last time. Like, be consistent.
Okay. So are you going to bring the hadith? You have been given ample amount of time. You came on stage, you made a positive claim. Are you or are you not refuting the Orientalist? Bring the hadith which fulfills the criterion of embarrassment. By the way, you're wrong about the agnostic position. The agnostic position would just be, I don't know who is the madar, who is the common link. It could be all pro-Ali's, it could be all pro-Osmanis, it could all be neutral people. I don't know. That's what the agnostic position is. So you're actually misrepresenting the agnostic position. Anyway, you came on stage, you made a positive claim, you said the hadith fulfilled the criterion of embarrassment. Now you are being pushed to bring a hadith. Yes or no? Just answer simply. Are you going to bring the hadith? Yes or no? If you're not going to bring the hadith, then we can continue the discussion. You need to agree with the fact you're not going to bring a hadith, right? And stop pushing the burden of proof, right? Bring the hadith. There are people in the audience who might very well be agnostic, right? Who want to see your evidence. You are making a positive claim. I am making a positive claim, and I have presented abductive evidence for that positive claim, right? And you're saying, oh, you don't accept Orientalist scholarship. The claim is pretty objective. The claim is that the earliest reconstructed sources of Sirah, the earliest reconstructed contact of the Medinan sources, the Zubaydid sources, do not feature Ali in a positive light. All you need to do is to actually, and I cannot prove a negative. Like, I cannot actually show you traditions which do not exist, because a great mention of Ali does not exist in these sources, right? So all you need to do is to actually show a pro-Alid hadith from an anti-Alid source. Are you going to bring the hadith? Yes or no? Please answer clearly.
I will respond now. So here's the reason I'm honest and I'm not pathetic, unlike Brethren of Purity.
Okay,
I
that's not going to
responded to
work.
his
That's, you
entire
cannot use
argument.
that language. You can, if you are getting frustrated, that's fine. Don't use that language. I've been very cordial, very moral, and very nice to you. Are you going to present the same respect,
I will not call
or
you pathetic.
yeah,
Let's
or
agree.
we
I
are
will
gonna
not
we
call
are
you
gonna end
pathetic.
the discussion here? That's about it,
I
right?
will not call you
Okay,
pathetic.
no
I don't
problem.
want
Go
you
ahead.
to
Go ahead,
get
brother.
your feelings hurt. Okay.
No, no, it's not
I
about my
can at
feelings.
least
It's
call
about basic courtesy. You need to talk to
it
your
is about your feelings.
interlocutor in a
Brethren of
respectable manner.
Purity,
وَقُولَا لَهُ وَقُولَا
interrupting
لَهُ
again and
قَوْلًا
again, that's
لَيِّنًا
part of basic
لَعَلَّهُ
courtesy.
يَتَذَكَّرَ أَوْ يَخْشَى.
Brethren of
Even
Purity
Musa is asked
is
to talk to Fir'aun nicely.
interrupting
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
interrupting your interlocutor part of being nice or
yeah.
part
If
of
my
basic manners
interlocutor
of
is being
debate.
abusive, yes. So please have
But
some
being
respect.
called
Respect
pathetic is
yourself.
not an
Yeah,
abuse.
yeah. Respect yourself and talk
I
nicely.
respect
Go ahead.
myself. I don't respect your view, but honestly, I think I've been courteous enough. But let me respond to this point. Firstly, here's how can you I am honest and Brethren of Purity is not. I hope this doesn't violate community guidelines. I addressed each of his arguments. He has not once addressed the point about Isnad. Again, think about this. Why would, let's suppose every pro-Russian, let's put this in America, there's a Russian author writes a pro-Russian book. Why would Americans accept it? Why would anyone accept it? If they are accepting it, this shows that they are unbiased, that their grading system or their standard for authenticity, which is the SNAT system, is reliable. Secondly, his point about me not bringing up a specific hadith, I don't need to. Thirdly, part about misconstruing the agnostic position, what I mentioned is the correct agnostic position. You wouldn't pick a side regarding originally assume that all of these hadiths are from pro-Alid, anti-Alid, or neutral sources. You would keep an open mind. This is the agnostic position. Fourthly, you can prove a negative. It's actually very easy. Let's suppose I'm making a claim. I'm making a negative claim, or you can prove or disprove a negative. There is nothing in Sunni Hadith that praises Hazrat Ali Radhiyallahu anhu. That negative proof can be disproven in seconds by bringing numerous hadiths that praise Hazrat Ali Radhiyallahu anhu. Fifthly, you have been insisting again and again in this discussion that there is an anti-Ali bias in Medina or Sunni sources. Give proof of this. Don't give some relations that are not like how you misconstrue Hazrat Ali Radhiyallahu anhu. Give proof that there is anti-Ali bias. And by the way, the things like the siege of Khyber, all of the battle of Badr, where Hazrat Ali Radhiyallahu anhu is one of the earliest warrior. All of these are present in earlier Medinan Siras and sources. Like Ibn Ishaq, sorry, he was commissioned by the Abbasid Caliph, who I gave a reason for, has a reason to be anti-Ali. You never responded to that. All of these narrations, all of these early Sira sources, they have pro-Ali narrations, and they have those pro-Ali narrations by the dozens. You did not respond to any of this. You did not respond to the point about Isnads. Like, what are we doing here? Are we debating, or this is just a con game from you to just delay the inevitable? That's what it looks like. Please respond.
Yeah, obviously, I'm not going to engage with the rest of the arguments until we finish with the first one, which is your positive claim that there is a hadith that follows the criterion of embarrassment or dissimilarity. So until we are done with that, obviously, and I've been very clear, I'm not going to engage with the rest of the arguments, no matter how many times you repeat it. So refuting the Orientalists, I'm going to ask you the last time, are you going to bring the hadith or not? Because you came on stage, you made a positive claim that there is a hadith that follows the criterion of embarrassment or dissimilarity, which is transmitted by an Osmani authority or an anti-Alid authority, but its content is pro-Alid. So are you going to bring the hadith or no? If you're not going to bring the hadith, then just say no, and we can continue with your other points. Go ahead.
I have to ask if you have some sort of a hearing problem. Because in my previous response, I said I was not going to bring a hadith. Is this something from you to like a trick to buy time? Like someone
Okay.
repeats
So
a
you don't
question that
have
asks them,
evidence
Brother of
for the
purity,
claim
look,
that
I
you
let you
just made.
speak. Look, be respectful now. I'm not using any harsh language. I let you speak without interruption. Let me finish my point, then you can respond. Thank you. Okay, so the point about hadith, I already explained why I'm not going to bring the hadith. He did not address the point about isnads. Again, think about this. I actually challenged his main argument or admit it head on. He said you cannot bring the hadith, address this point. I am not bringing the hadith. I directly acknowledge this. I asked him, address the point about isnad, address the point about Russia and America, and all of that. He is not addressing any of it. I asked him to point. He claimed that the Abbasids were pro Ali or had motivation to be pro Ali. I challenged his claim. He never addressed it. Again, he is not addressing anything I am saying, while I am addressing everything he is saying. So honestly, if he wants to move on, let me make this bluntly clear. I have already explained I am not going to bring the hadith and why I don't need to. So you don't have an excuse regarding this. You cannot waste time on this again. Lastly, I want to just add one point regarding the criterion of embarrassment. No one in their right mind, no one disagrees that are innumerable things in Sunni Hadith and Sirah that go against the interest of Muslims. Want me to give an example from a non-Muslim, non-Sunni Western source? Look up the book, The Journalship of Muhammad by Russ Rogers. Chapter 1 in the introduction, he mentions that the reason he thinks Sunni Hadiths are reliable is because there are innumerable things in Sunni historical records that go against their interests. Like they wouldn't make these up and make these things up for their interest. So the claim Brethren of Purity is making is, to be honest, quite sad and dishonest. Now, I think we have discussed this argument enough. Brethren of Purity, you can move on to the next one or you can continue on this. It's up to you.
Of course, I'm going to continue. I'm going to pin you down on the proposition that you made. You came on stage and you said there is a hadith that follows the criterion of embarrassment or dissimilarity. No matter how much you try to divert the topic is not going to be diverted, my friend. Are you, obviously, you have claimed that you're not going to bring the hadith. So now, are you going to backtrack your claim? Because either you're going to backtrack your claim or you're going to provide substantiation. If you don't have any substantiation, then you need to backtrack your claim and say you do not have any evidence for the claim that you're making. Right? When you came on stage, you said, oh, the Sunni Hadith corpus is reliable because there are hadiths that follow the criterion of dissimilarity or the criterion of embarrassment. This is so because there are hadiths that are from anti-Alid sources but have pro-Alid matan. You made this claim. Okay, let's just assume I am absolutely agnostic. I don't know anything about this claim. I'm not making any counterclaim. What is your evidence that there is a hadith from an anti-Alid source that has pro-Alid content? Please bring the hadith. If you cannot bring the hadith, then take back your claim. That's it. You need to do one of them. Either you bring the evidence or you take back the claim. If you take back the claim, then for sure we can move on to the next point. If you don't take back on the claim, wallahi al-azim, even if this continues for 24 hours, I will repeat the same thing again and again. This is not my sunnah to move on to the next topic when a person has made a claim and is unable to substantiate the previous topic. So no matter how many times you say, I have not addressed the point, I have not addressed the point, I have arguments against all the other points as well, but I'm not going to move on until you agree that you do not have evidence for the claim you made. Either you backtrack from the claim and apologize, or you actually bring the evidence that you were initially presenting or claiming that you possessed. As soon as I pushed you on it, you said, okay, I have not actually analyzed any of the chain. Well, when you have not analyzed any hadith, how can you claim that the criterion of embarrassment or dissimilarity actually applies in them? You're just making a hasty generalization without actually taking data into account. So if you cannot bring the hadith, which you have already agreed, you are not going to bring the hadith, Are you going to backtrack your claim? Yes or no?
Okay, I'll respond to this now again. By the way, if you have watched my previous debate with Brethren of Purity, he is going to do this because the simple fact is he knows his position is indefensible. Like in the stylometry debate, he backtracked his arguments about 6 or 7 times. I've given timestamps for that in my debate review. He did the same thing here. I'm not going to bring the hadith regarding right now because right now, to be honest, I don't have access to corpus collections and I'm not going to spend hours and hours searching out individual hadiths and tracing their isnads and all of that. Why would I do that in this debate? Like, this is a discussion on a Twitter space. If we are at an in-person public debate, not even in person, like on a big platform, all of those things, like days or weeks to prepare, of course I could do all of that, or I could go do the heavy research. But for a 1 hour discussion or 1.5 hour discussion on Twitter, that seems pretty much a waste of time. Firstly. Secondly, he's saying that I'm speaking for hours and that this is like me wasting time or taking time too much. What's he doing? Like, the hypocrisy here is amazing. I am generally marveling at his cognitive dissonance. Secondly, thirdly, again, he's not addressing the point about Isnad. He's not addressing his claim regarding the motivations of Ali, the Abbasids to make pro-Ali hadith. He made this claim. I directly addressed it. He's dodging the point. I'm literally addressing everything he's saying and he's not responding. Now, I'll make a second argument. He can choose to respond to or not. That's up to him. Here's a very simple argument for reliability of
No,
Sunni
sorry,
hadith,
you don't
specifically
make
Sunni.
to don't get to make the second argument until you either
Why?
backtrack your claim or
I'm
actually
not going to
present
backtrack.
evidence.
I don't have to
Okay,
backtrack.
then
I've
I think the
responded to
debate is
each of your
finished here.
claims.
The debate is finished.
Why are you
When
running? No.
if you're
Brethren
not
of
gonna
purity.
if you're
You
not gonna
said you were going to
backtrack,
stay 24 hours. Brethren of
yeah.
purity.
If you're not
You
gonna
said you
backtrack
were
your
going to
claim,
stay 24 hours here to talk to me again and
yeah. So
again.
this
Why
is
did
your
you backtrack?
strategy. You make
Then
claims,
stay
make
here
claims.
24 hours.
Yeah. Make
I will
claims. Do
stay here
not make
24 hours with
arguments.
me.
Do
Brethren of
not.
purity.
Yeah, make
You
claims and
said,
run away when you are. Yeah, you have to
Brethren
present
of
evidence.
purity.
This is your strategy.
You said you were going to stay 24 hours with me
Oh yeah,
discussing this topic.
I'm here, and
I
we'll see
will
you
stay
running.
24 hours with you.
Oh.
Forget my job, forget my responsibilities. I will abandon all of that just to discuss this topic with you because how much this means to me. Don't
Okay, how
interrupt
much?
me when I'm
So
speaking.
how about
Now
you
I'll go
present
to my
evidence?
second argument for historical reliability of Sunni Hadith. Here's a simple argument. According to Orientalist claims, Isnad, Sunni authentic Isnads are fabricated, right? All of them are fabricated, and they are claiming it's really easy to fabricate them. Here's a simple argument. If it was really easy to fabricate Isnads, authentic Isnads, why didn't Shias do them? Like, if you look at the most authentic Shia works, like Al-Kafi, there are very few authentic Isnads compared to authentic Isnads in Sunni Hadith. And this is according to the Shia scholars themselves. Again, you cannot accuse me of bias in this regard because I'm using Shia gradings for Shia Hadith and Sunni gradings for Sunni Hadith. Let's suppose the Orientalist claim or the claim that Brethren of Purity is espousing is that Sunni Isnads were fabricated and it was really easy to fabricate them. Why didn't Shias do that? The fact that they couldn't or didn't or couldn't fabricate authentic isnads shows that the Sunni isnads are reliable because it was really difficult to fabricate authentic isnads. So this is another argument for historical reliability of Sunni hadith. Brethren of Purity can respond or he can do the usual thing he does. It's his time now.
Yeah. So as you can see, he has still not presented the argument. He has not presented the evidence. So the strategy of refuting the Orientalists is to make a claim, and then when you are pushed to present evidence, run away and do not present the evidence. That's the strategy that's happening. He made the claim about Osmani sources actually preserving a pro-Alid content. That's actually remarkably false. One of the threads is actually linked above where you can see the Usmani tendencies of Malik ibn Anas. And even if you read the earliest Sirah transmitted by the Medinan sources, a lot of the content is not available in the Medinan sources. A lot of the pro-Ali content is not available in the pro-Ali Usmani sources. A very simple example would be saying something like "Man kuntu mawla fahada aliyun mawla," right? This is not something that is transmitted in the early Medinan sources about the Sira, right? So, and then there are many other examples of pro-Ali content actually not featuring in earliest Sunni corpus, proto-Sunni corpus, the earliest Osmani corpus. So the claim that refuting the Orientalists is actually presenting is directly contradicted by clear evidence. Now, coming to the point about Abbasids being anti-Ali, that's not true. The Abbasids were not anti-Ali. Yeah, there were supposedly Ali opponents of the Abbasids, but Abbasids conceptualized themselves as legitimizing Ali's authority. This is very clear from multiple Abbasid reports. If you just read any Abbasid court companion, or if you read Abbasid reports, they explicitly appropriated content that was related to even the figure of Mahdi, that was related to pro-Ali themes, because they self-conceptualized themselves as legitimate Ali the authorities. So just because two competing Ali the authorities compete with each other, that does not entail that they are going to become anti-Ali themselves. That's like saying, oh, just because the Sunnis and the Shias differ from each other, and the Sunnis love the Prophet, therefore the Shias would be anti-Prophet. That's not the case, obviously. When a particular figure is common amongst two factions, and both factions claim descent from them, even if one faction opposes the other, the claim is about self-perception. The claim is not about, oh, just because one authority is regarded by another group, therefore the opposing group must go against the authority. That's not how it works. If there is some other argument that you, okay, yeah, the argument about the Sunni Hadith and the Shia Hadith corpus, there it's very simple actually. What you need to understand is that the Sunni biographical literature is actually in line with the Sunni transmission, i.e., the biographical traditions, the Kutub of Asma al-Rajal and Tawfiq, they actually are compiled after the majority of transmissions happen, when the majority of chains are crystallized. So when these works are being compiled, there is a direct connection between, and Najm Haider has actually shown this relationship, so has Kumail Rajani. There's a direct relationship between the reception of the narrators in Kutub Asma al-Rijal and their way of transmission and their status in the transmission of Sunni Hadith corpus. This is not the case with the Shia Hadith corpus. In the Shia Hadith corpus, there is a clear disconnect between the Kutub of Isma Rijal and the the Shia Hadith transmission. And the reason for that is there was uh, there was a big competing legacy between the Shi'is, of which, a lot of the Shi'i historians, the critical Shi'i historians, have written about as well, such as Mushir Asatriyan or Hussein Mudarrisi or Kumail Rajani or Edmund Hayes. So the reason for that is that there was the Ghulat group, or the more esoterically inclined group, and there was the Muqassir, or the more exoteric group. And the majority of Asma al-Rijal is actually compiled by the exotericist group. And that's why at many times they are very critical of the transmitters of the Shia Hadith corpus who are actually esotericists or who had Ghulat leanings. Right. That's why a lot of the chains, which initially would have been perceived as sahih in the later tradition, were actually perceived as da'if. and even Leonardo Capizone and Muhammad Ali Amir Muizzi and Faris Gilon. All these different scholars have written about this. So this disparity in inter madhab rulings on the hadith being sahih or da'if has nothing to do with the chain being actually sahih or da'if. It has to do with what were the perceptions of these people in the books of Asma Rijal, and that has to do with what was the correspondence between the compilers of Asma Rijal and the actual transmitters. There's a disconnect in the Shia Hadith, while there's no disconnect in the Sunni Hadith. That's the main reason.
Okay. Honestly, the responses I got were just like sad. I'll address the multiple points each, like one by one. I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting one of them, but the point I first remember was him claiming that the Abbasids were pro Ali and they were celebrating the legacy of Ali Radiallahu anhu and claiming like role from him, descent from him. Therefore, they wouldn't have anti-Ali bias. This is wrong. This is actually a nonsensical claim. Look, understand this point. They can love Allah Radiallahu anhu. They can try to promote themselves as being legitimate successors of him, but they wouldn't do this to establish their own authority. In fact, if Hazrat Ali Radiallahu anhu is an authority, if his succession is to be taken seriously, who is more closer to him? His descendants or the descendants of Abbas Radiallahu anhu? Of course, his own descendants. And these people, the descendants of Hazrat Ali Radiallahu anhu, were rebelling against the Abbasid rule. Again, think about this. Americans were taking over the Native American tribes, right? In that case, would they have false narrations favoring the Native American tribes and glorifying their rule over America? No, they wouldn't. In fact, they didn't. They forged a lot of anti-Native American or Native literature to delegitimize them. This is what they would do. Firstly, secondly, if and this is what was in their interest to do. Now, if the Abbasids are reporting pro-Ali literature, this is evidence of their sincerity, because these are not in their interest to do. These delegitimize their own rule. Firstly, secondly, he said he gave one or two examples of pro-Ali hadiths that are absent from Ali Madina literature. How does this prove that the Ali Madina literature is anti-Ali? Because numerous portions of the Sirah that go back to all regions that are from the Madinan Sirah, such as the thing about Khaybar, where Hazrat Ali Radiallahu anhu has such esteem and honor in Sunni Hadith. The thing about Badr, there are numerous other cases. Him taking the place of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the time of the Hijrah. If all those Madinan sources were anti-Ali, why didn't they remove all of this? Like, these are the first things they would have removed. Think about this. What benefits Abbasids? That the person taking the place of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is Abbas radiallahu anhu or Ali radiallahu anhu. Think about this. This isn't rocket science. This is actually quite simple. So I think this addresses this argument. Again, honestly, I am missing one of his points. I don't remember exactly which one, but I acknowledge this, and he can remind me, and I'll respond to it later. Lastly, his point about he went to a long ad hoc explanation about why Shia Hadith are a lot weaker. He says that the grading of Shia Hadith is like, it doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. Here is the problem with that claim. There are conflicts, there are internal conflicts, massive internal conflicts among the Sunnis as well. They are everywhere. This alone does not excuse anything. Firstly. Secondly, all of this is an ad hoc explanation. Let's suppose Orientalists are claiming, as the Orientalists are claiming, it was really easy to fabricate all these authentic isnads and fabricate all this biographical literature. Why didn't the Shias do it? Like, if it was so easy, they would do it as well. It's not. The simple fact that they didn't or couldn't do it is evidence that these narrations couldn't be, or that this entire system of isnad transmission or grading of isnad could not be easily forged. All of the response he gave was just an ad hoc excuse. The simple fact is, the simplest explanation is that that these authentic ratings could not be false, and therefore the massive amount of Sunni authentic hadiths are evidence of their reliability and sincerity. Now there's a limited charging with my laptop, so like he can give a final statement, or I can give a final statement, or he wants to have the final words, he can do that. But this will be it for today, and then we can schedule another space maybe next weekend or next Sunday. I prefer Sunday. We can respond.
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple. As you can see, he has not, and you can listen to the replay as well. He came on stage refuting the Orientalists, claimed that a lot of the content in the Sunni Hadith corpus, and he particularly took the example of Ali, a lot of that content fits the criterion of embarrassment or the criterion of dissimilarity. When he was pushed to present evidence for this claim, no hadith, no evidence was presented, right? Then he basically just assumes that the Abbasids were largely anti-Ali, and that's just simply not true. When you actually read the Abbasid history, you can find multiple examples of Abbasid relationship with Ali's, to the even to the extent, no, well, obviously they were in favor of the those who held the four caliph thesis, but even those who didn't hold the four caliph thesis, even those who hold to the taqdeem of Ali, even many such people worked in Abbasid courts, right? Because Abbas's claim of legitimacy were, they had no problem in deriving their claims of legitimacy from a pro-Ali stance. So this is just simply not true. And actually, even if you look at the history of Abbasid revolt, the very revolt that overtook the Umayyads, many Alids took part in the Abbasid revolt. The Abbasid revolt was actually based on Ali messianic sentiments. So he is literally just ignoring all of this history and back anachronistically back projecting his conceptions of what constitutes legitimate authority and what doesn't, and back projecting it and thinking the people at that time also thought of it in the same manner. Then he goes on to a tangent about the Shia Hadith corpus and the Sunni Hadith corpus. That has been thoroughly explained already. The Sunni Hadith corpus's biographical literature is compiled by people who are ideologically in favor of the major transmitters. That's the main thing. Because even if you look at and you're absolutely right, there were differences within the Sunni Hadith literature as well. And if you actually read it, in the Sunni the Kutub of Asma al-Rijal, you can actually see the early Hanafis or the proto-Hanafis or the principalists being disparaged or being criticized. For example, if you read Al-Juzjani's Ma'rifatul Rijal, he has criticism on Abu Hanifa. And there are actually many cases where, many different cases where you can see the criticism of Abu Hanifa. Not just Abu Hanifa, you can see criticism of even of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq. So yeah, whenever the person did not fully meet the inclinations of the peculiar group, they and their narrations were criticized. The difference is that the Shia Hadith narrations are criticized more from an internalist paradigm, is because the Shia Hadith transmitters held to one peculiar view, which was an esotericist view, whereas the Sunni, the Shia Kutub of Ma'rifa and Rijal, they are compiled by people who held an opposing view, which is an exotericist view. That is why even many major companions in the Shi'i tradition, in the Shi'i Kutub of Rijal, they are criticized. For example, Mufaddal ibn Umar, for example, Jabir al-Ju'fi, even people who held, who we, from the prosopographical literature and the Hadith literature, who we are clear had a high esteem, and even from the hagiographical literature, who we are clear had a high esteem in the Shi'i community, in their later reception, they are criticized. even though the early compilers such as Al-Barqi or such as Al-Safar or Al-Qummi or Al-Kulaini, these compilers did not see these people in a negative light, right? And even Kholaway, and this has all of this has been extensively studied by Amir Muizzi. So you can actually refer to that. This has nothing to do with the chains actually being reliable or not. The majority of the Sunni chains in their earliest corpus are not even connected. For example, the corpus of Urwa ibn Zubayr, Hisham ibn Urwa from his father Urwa ibn Zubayr, is not even connected. Hisham does not bring asanid that are connected, that are musnad from his father. He just quotes marasil of Urwa, whereas Zuhri, who comes later, he actually cites musnad ahadith from Urwa. So there are many cases where you can see that the earliest corpus of the Sunni Hadith actually doesn't even have a complete chain, and the later traditions get chained through irtifa, through raising. So all these points have been thoroughly answered. It's clear refuting the Orientalist comes up, makes a claim, and then is unable to present any evidence. I think any rational person can see this.
Okay, I'll just make a brief minor statement in this regard. Again, I think like every play, like it's all a con game or a delaying tactic from Brethren of Purity. The points I'm making are inevitable. He's just trying to try to delay this discussion on these topics and then maybe run away from a debate for months and then maybe try again, because that's what he did with the last debate. Like again, I think it's actually quite. Actually, you know what? I don't want to be interrupted, so I won't say what I actually feel about this. As far as the point about Abbasids, again, think about this. Let's suppose, let's take the Second World War as example. What's he saying that the Abbasids were actually allied with Alids, right? Let's correlate this with the alliance between Soviets and the Americans. Why would Americans make up positive narrations about the Soviets, even though they are allies, right? They share similar beliefs. They still wouldn't make up positive narrations about the Soviets because that would threaten their own rule or control of the world after the war. This is clearly analogous to his claim that Abbasids were making pro-Ali narrations. Why would they make them? Why wouldn't they have authority, more authority for Abbas radiallahu anhu? Or why wouldn't the Umayyads have more authority for Muawiyah radiallahu anhu? The fact that there are no narrations praising him as one of the earliest companions is actually, for this reason, a massive evidence for Hadith's reliability, because these narrations are simply not there, but on his view, these should be there. So I think that takes care of his claim regarding the Abbasids supposedly having motivation to fabricate hadiths favoring Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu. He did not address my point about the numerous hadiths praising Hazrat Ali radiallahu anhu, even in the Medinan sources, the ones he's saying that anti-Ali. Like all of those clearly meet the criterion of dissimilarity. He did not address the point about Isnad. Again, this is the crux of the argument that he's dodging. Whether you think every single narration praising Ali is from pro-Ali sources, even if that was the case, why would all the anti-Ali or neutral sources just accept them? Why would they give them Sahih Isnads? It would never happen. Lastly, the point about he said he's talking about the Rijal literature and all of that, or why Shia Hadiths are not great. It's Sahih. Again, it's not rocket science. He's pointing to conflicts or disagreements of methodology, etc., between Shias as a reason for not being a lot of Sahih graded hadith. But all of that is present in Sunni Rijal literature as well. There are major disagreements as well, as Orientalists often point out. There are major conflicts in general between Sunnis as well. If Sahih hadiths are really easy to fabricate, as the Orientalists claim, and as Brethren of Purity thinks happened, why didn't the Shias do him? Why there are so few authentic Shia hadiths compared to, according to Shia scholars, compared to so many authentic Sunni hadiths according to Sunni scholars? Like honestly, how can anyone take him seriously? Like, be honest with yourself. Honestly, this seems to be honest, like the cognitive dissonance I find quite amazing. So I think like this was a good debate. I hope the Resident of Duty doesn't do what he did last time, which was run away from months. I would like to have a debate next week as well because he still has not discussed one anti-Hadith argument. It's just me making the arguments. He did not bring one of his own. We can have a debate next Sunday and we can do this discussion. By the way, at this point, I will end the recording for when I upload it on my YouTube channel. I think both of us had good closing statements. I enjoyed the debate. I like that I got to discuss this topic. Though I guess I could desire more honesty, but other than that, I enjoyed this discussion. Please don't delete the recording because I will upload this on my YouTube channel and end it at the point I mentioned. Okay. Bye.